Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well and staying safe during this time. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Like I said, thank you so much for checking me out. If you haven't done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button just right below the video. Cool, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thanks again for your support. I truly do appreciate having you here.
XRP whales move 60 million coins between wallets. You know, if you didn't see the interview with me and Linda P. Jones yesterday, former 25-year Wall Street veteran, author, I tell you, you should go check it out, because one of the things I talk about in there is, will we see XRP relisted in the secondary market? I think it's a yes and no. Or at least potentially. I don't know the answer, but maybe we see XRP relisted in the secondary market just to see the liquidity that is there be drained, like draining a pond, right? And then when it's gone, it's gone. And the only people left holding it will be you and I, and maybe at that point we end up going to a bank to actually sell it when we're ready to, or maybe we even get a chance to lease it, right? That would be incredible too. But the one thing I understand here is that, you know, Ripple has made this abundantly clear to us that they are not selling programmatic sales to the secondary market, which means they're not selling XRP and have not been selling XRP to exchanges. So I find that interesting, unless they're an on-demand liquidity partner for that purpose. So to me, what I take from that, also understanding that Ripple is also buying back off of the secondary market, that is their way of exercising good fiscal and monetary policy. That's how I see that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after this case ends, which is projected to end this year. Any day for a settlement, and no later than between September and November for a summary judgment. So very exciting to know that this case sometime this year should end, regardless of however many more delays we may or may not get. Warren Davidson says right here, does Elizabeth Warren understand that illicit activity accounts for around 1,024th of total crypto transactions? Or that the giant sanctions loophole for Russian energy is Russia's biggest funding source? Apparently not. Shout out to Warren Davidson, who's laying it down here, while Elizabeth Warren still continues with the gamesmanship in politics here. You know, really, the other week we saw her a couple weeks ago grill Nellie Liang, the Under Treasury Secretary for the U.S. Treasury, and it was quite interesting to watch that congressional hearing, because she really laid it at Nellie Liang's feet that it's on her to do this, not Congress, right? It's on the Treasury and FSOC to come in and deem things systemically important and to do that job, because her and Congress are too lazy to do it themselves. They want to get reelected, and they can't get reelected if they make the mistake. So they push the other agencies to do it for them, what they can from their agency chair. And then when that's not right, they can sit back and point the finger and go, well, we told you to do it, but you did it wrong. I tell you, it is sickening to watch politics unfold. Sophisticated traders appear to be wagering that recent pain in Ether may worsen. Forget about the chart and stick to the title and the article here. Ladies and gentlemen, we do know that there is trouble with ETHgate, the corruption we have discovered over the last year and a half. it has been despicable, the things that have been uncovered of Joseph Lubin teaching investors how to disguise their identity and accounts. It's just pathetic. And then on top of it, we now see a case breaking out on the inside of Consensus. Majority shareholders now looking for damages because of the way business has been and has not been handled there. Pretty interesting. We will follow it. You know, all of this really stems to a larger point about Ether and how it got its free pass, because we know that Joseph Grunfest had also sat down days before the lawsuit was dropped. And thanks to TAIG here, the SEC weaponized lawsuit against Ripple. XRP has been going for 442 days now, or to put it in perspective, 1.55% of the average lifespan of a United States citizen. How about that? So if Ether is to be allowed to trade freely in the market, so too must XRP. And if XRP is to be subject to restrictions, so too should Ether. And other results create a competitive imbalance that cannot be rationalized with reference to fair enforcement of federal securities laws. Joseph Grunfest to Jay Clayton on December 17th, 2020. Just 3 days before the lawsuit was dropped. How about that one? It just incensed, I am incensed when I think of that. However, we got to move on because we know that there's a lot happening here, and I think as we pivot in the news here, this is where we get to it. There is a new financial system coming. And I offer you this. It is my speculation. But the new financial system that's coming into place, it is Ripple. It is RippleNet. It is PolySign, standard custody. I do believe this. It is the XRP ledger, which is a decentralized exchange. Look at here what renowned investor Jim Rogers says in this article really quickly as I move through it. He says right here, but what is happening with the U.S. dollar now is the end of the U.S. dollar, he says, because an international currency is supposed to be neutral, but in Washington, they are now changing the rules. Well, listen, let's not any of us be naive here. Washington's never played by the rules, okay? Just get that out of there. So many countries are starting to look for a competitor. He goes on to say names that we've heard of recent, most of which are in the BRICS coalition: China, Russia, India, Brazil, even cites Iran. Some countries are starting to look for a competing currency. And they should, because Washington doesn't play fair anymore, which they never really did anyway. Since Russia began its invasion into Ukraine, the United States, as well growing number of other countries, have been placing sanctions on Russia. But again, just like the clip that I played for everybody from Jim in this morning's video, Jim Rickards, go watch that video. You know, he says the same thing unfolded in 1998. They had sanctions that went out on Russia, but because all of these banks and partners around the world are connected at the hip, there's a cascading effect. Right? This is not siloed islands we're talking about here. These banks in the financial world and the global economy are exactly that. They're global. So once it starts happening one place, it really becomes systemic as it moves through. And they had to really come up with a solution back then to keep things from happening. So there was a bailout apparently. So going on to that point here it says here, Russia has about 16% of its reserves in US dollars, 32% in euros. As billionaire Bill Miller recently described, they have almost 50% of the reserves in currencies that are controlled by people who want to do them harm. Miller agrees with Rogers that the other countries are starting to look for alternative currencies to the US dollar. All of this is speaking even louder now from different people who are very wealthy, successful investors that are seeing what is on the horizon. And it is the end of the US dollar being the global reserve currency alone. At least alone, right? Because we're hearing about other solutions, so it won't be by itself. So now, this was put out by Ripple here, and this is an article that really came out July 2021 of last year, but I'm only showing it because it talks about CBDCs unlocking endless fiscal policy options. And isn't that really what we're talking about here? And think of this for a moment. Look at the amount of entities. Let me pause this here. Look at the number of entities that Ripple are already working with. This is who we know about. Right? We're talking about Bhutan, the Central Bank of Bhutan, Republic of Palau. We know they're on the Digital Pound Foundation. Check. They've just recently joined the European Union Digital Euro Association for the European Union, which represents 27 countries. I mean, think of this for a moment. How much longer before we hear that we're actually with the United States too? Truthfully, we already know we are with the United States because we know that in 2015 to 2017, Ripple was cited in 2017 by the Federal Reserve and the Faster Payments Task Force to be a solution for the financial system and cross-border payments. Don't believe that. It's still true. Now take a look at this. Now, I know some of you may have seen this before, but think of the infrastructure that needs to happen in order for a new financial system to work. It's not just about the countries getting their own central bank digital currencies and their own little private ledgers that can all be interoperable and talk to one another. Obviously, that has to happen, and it is happening. We're seeing it happen. But think about the closed circle, the closed circuit of what needs to happen on a grand scale. Now, I'm not talking about you and I in the retail world. What I'm talking about in the grand scale is that very tight circle of entities that settle the largest amount of business for the rest of the world throughout the course of a day. We're talking about SWIFT. We're talking about the Federal Reserve and the money printing. We're talking about the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation. Just having these three entities connected with new infrastructure, which I believe is RippleNet for SWIFT, which I believe is PolySign for DTCC, which I believe can be and probably will end up being Ripple as a central bank with its escrow XRP as a backstop to the Federal Reserve, because the US dollar may come down as the only reserve asset. It may remain, but not by itself. And think about that closed loop, that very tight loop between all of this. Think about the fact that I'm getting ready to play for you this right now, and I want to play this. Let me see if I can get this lined up here. And check this out. Yeah, this is it right here, I believe. This is Brad Garlinghouse, and he's going to say exactly what I'm saying to you. Listen to what he says, and we'll talk about it. Check it out.
We're pushing, and also a lot of money attached to those settlements.
For sure. So we have over 100 banks working with Ripple today around the world. I think The vast majority of banks, like 99.9% of banks, actually are paying other banks, the kind of the global money center banks like JP Morgan or Citibank, to make those settlements. So
99% of the banks are paying the other banks to make those payments for settlements. Check it out.
The vast majority of banks, like 99.9% of banks, actually are paying other banks, the kind of the global money center banks like JP Morgan or Citibank, to make those settlements.
So now make the loop of SWIFT and the DTCC and the Fed and add in a couple of the largest banks of the world that are really handling the heavy lifting of the cross-border payments that are being done, because the 99.9% of banks that are making cross-border are going to those small handful of large banks to get it done. Ripple is, I believe, the new financial system. I believe there'll be other protocols too, but I don't think it's a stretch to say, to be honest with you. And to add to that point, it's Rosie Rios, Ripple board member, who reminds us of $1.69 trillion reminder here.
So my name currently appears, well, actually, let's see. Right now there's $1.71 trillion of U.S. currency in circulation worldwide. 1.71 trillion. My name is on $1.69 trillion. So
how about that? You get you some of that. Now, you think Rosie Rios came over from the Treasury so she could have her illustrious career destroyed by someone like Ripple who's hung up in a lawsuit? No. Again, there's no criminal charges here. Again, there's no fraud charges here. This is a civil matter. It's just about really vetting this company, this technology, and the token that is native to the technology, XRP Ledger, which is a decentralized exchange to the world, which will become, I believe, a backbone liquidity sourcing because of the Ripple Liquidity Hub.
I'm your guy. I will keep you posted. I'm your advocate. I'll be back on a daily basis, usually multiple times per day, with these videos to keep you updated with everything going on. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't done so, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Feel free to share any of my videos with your friends, family, social media, or anybody who may care to listen. Thanks so much for your continued support. I'm always here for you. I want to help you through this time. So thank you so much for continuing to choose me. Enjoy your day, stay safe, and I'll catch you again probably in a couple hours. Thanks, everybody. See you later.